My title is Sister Doctor. That's what I'm affectionately known as. And the reason why the sister is there, because often people don't challenge the doctor, but the reason the sister is there is because I was a sister first. My connection with my community and my heritage is very, very strong, and I don't wish to lose the sister in favor of a title given by a Eurocentric way of being. So I keep the sister and I've added the doctor. So Sister Doctor allows me to still remain connected. Being raised in the UK, I was surrounded by people of different colours, different backgrounds, with different levels of understanding and interpretation. So colour kind of struck me in an interesting way because it became attached to injustice, and I wanted to fix it. I adopted Angela Davis as my mentor, as my role model. I had an amazing afro. I wore a Black Power badge. I began to fashion myself in a way that wasn't typical of nice girls, of nice Caribbean girls. And I know that my mother was worried because she would tell me to hush when I would speak about the injustice that I saw. Because it became clear that the Eurocentric system is not an Afrocentric system. Therefore, the decisions it makes are not necessarily in the interest of African people. And with that kind of approach to things, it meant that I was more involved in every discussion, everywhere the children, and I say the children now because I'm talking even beyond my own biological children, community children, our collective children, what is happening to us? That was a question I had, and I always sought to get an answer that was, I think, satisfactory to us and for our well-being, and our is Africans. My children went to private schools, African-centered schools. The curriculum was African-centered, and that means that they actually learn about Europe as well as themselves and not just learn about Europe. Because my schooling experience taught me about Europe. It taught me about so-called kings and queens and their behaviors. It taught me about their so-called great wars. It taught me about so-called Great Britain. But it never taught me about the atrocities. It never taught me about the raping and the pillaging and the violations. It never taught me about that. It never taught me that Africa was a continent and not a country. So when I looked and discovered all these other things, I realized that what I had been taught was a lie, and I couldn't afford for my children and our collective children to continue to have that lie taught to them. I can speak to some of the names that we would know, like some of our freedom fighters, like Nanny of the Maroons and Queen Nzinga. I can call those kinds of names, but I'm often reluctant to do that. And the reason why I'm reluctant to do that is because we often celebrate the ones that are well known and celebrate less our grandmothers and people that we might call bush doctors. You know, the ones that were working in the houses, and you know, maybe their names are not known, but they are just as much queens and kings. They are very much a part of our history. So for me, being able to speak to not only the names that we call when we're doing libation and pouring, you know, doing our rituals, but also to call or to call into consciousness or to call into our vibration those that are not named. Many of us as African people have resisted. You know, we haven't just been granted privilege. We have entered into systematic, premeditated resistance. We have had uprisings individually and collectively. Some of us have gone through doors alone, and we break down the door so other people can come through it. We may look at that elder walking down the road with her head tied and wish to have very little to do with her, and even scorn her. Actually, if we're truthful, some of us will scorn her. In certain circumstances, we may say hi or we may engage, but when we're dressed up in our fineries or so-called fineries, or when we're about our job, or when we have this title given to us by some kind of European state or paradigm, we will perhaps pay little attention to her. I would want to have started with just saying I express compassion for ourselves, for we have allowed ourselves to be taught by other peoples. And when the ideas of other peoples are planted very, very firmly in our minds, they become ours. And we then begin to behave based on the ideas in our head. So if we have been indoctrinated into a European way of being, we will not recognize those very rich dynamics that are ours, that are very much a part of our heritage, that are the basis upon which we've been able to be who we are today. I have been telling people English is not my first language, and a lot of people haven't really understood what it is I'm saying. If it is that we've been given a language, we have been told we can't speak our mother tongue, so our tongue becomes lazy. The way we speak, the way we have silences, the way we read, the way we interpret has all been affected by a Eurocentric way of being. It has compromised our power. So when we try to communicate one with another, we have difficulties. We stutter, we make mistakes, we're embarrassed, we're uncomfortable, we misunderstand one another, and therefore we fall out, simply because we don't recognize that we are scientists. If you use language, movement, stillness, meditation, contemplation, visioning, and all of those in the way that was handed to us by our forefathers and mothers, we will recognize that we actually have domain over ourselves. Wow. Okay, so first of all, the University of the West Indies is a place where I hold a job. My works are far greater than that of the University of the West Indies, so I want to put that up front. The job that I hold, or the portfolio that I hold at the University of the West Indies, is related to quality assurance. And quality assurance actually is something that is greater than the role that I have at the University of the West Indies. Being able to evaluate what you do and determine whether or not you are actually reaching what it is that you had intended to reach is something that we should all be doing. So quality assurance isn't just something that is applicable to a portfolio that I have there. So at the University of the West Indies, I hold the post of Senior Program Officer in terms of quality assurance of graduate studies and research programs. That's my role. Now, I don't do that on my own. I have a particular and unique role and responsibility, but quality assurance is something that everybody is responsible for within that institution and within every institution. Before I came to the University of the West Indies, I worked in institutions of higher learning or higher schooling, I should say, in the UK. So I worked at universities in the UK and became frustrated, I should say, with the idea that I should give my knowledge to the very system that I don't fully support. I would want to be in a majority African environment so that I can bring my way of seeing and my way of being in an environment where I would see more people that see and are being like me. The more European we become, the less we acknowledge that. The more uncomfortable we become with ritual, the more uncomfortable we become with drumming, the more uncomfortable we become with African ways of being, so African hairstyles, African nuances, excepting when it's so-called Black History Month. Black History Month, we pull out those clothes, we be walking up and down, seeing which one of us can style it out in our African wear. But when it comes down to it, at the end of February in the Caribbean and in the Americas, and in October, Black History Month is in October in Europe, at the end of those months, we put those clothes away because we don't want to wear them unless it becomes a fashion statement validated by Europe. I love you. You're beautiful. You are majestic. I'm looking forward to you having your success so that I can also look to you as my reflection. My thing would be to enter into sisterhoods that are healthy for you. Enter into ways of being that are healthy for you so you can learn who you are, strengthen yourself, and then teach others. Now, being with sisters doesn't mean that you're turning your back on brothers, because by being with each other and being more of who we are and vibrating at that higher frequency, when we go to be with our loved ones, we bring more. We are more nutritional, we are more intellectual, we are more spiritual, we are more grounded, we are more-ish. So I would invite you to seek rites of passage programs. Find ways and spaces, sacred spaces where you can learn about yourself. Don't rely on Eurocentric ways of being. Don't buy into the notion that you are not worthy. You are very worthy. You can be all that you want to be, but you must enter into a rites of passage so that you know about all aspects of yourself and your power, and you can continue to ensure that we have cultural transference that has us as kings, queens, and reigning sovereign over our own selves. Good thanks.